The massive space station hung in the void like a metal flower. Station Prima was the heart of the Galactic Council, where 1,000 different alien species came to make deals and settle disputes. Today, the station buzzed with excitement. The Yao, humans, were finally going to surrender. Ambassador Daeho Kim stepped off his small shuttle and looked around the docking bay. Alien workers stopped their tasks to stare at him. Some pointed with tentacles, others clicked their mandibles in what he knew was laughter. Word had spread quickly through the station. The humans were here to give up. Daeho walked slowly through the corridors. His simple gray suit looked plain next to the colorful robes and armor of the aliens around him. He carried only a small briefcase and wore no weapons. To everyone watching, he looked like a man who had already lost everything. The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in floating seats that hung from the ceiling like glowing pods. At the center, 3 massive thrones held the most powerful beings in the galaxy. These were the ones who had decided that humanity needed to be removed from space. Speaker Velthar of the Vextai Empire sat on the left throne. His insect-like body was covered in black chitin that reflected the chamber lights. His 4 arms moved constantly as he spoke, and his compound eyes never seemed to blink. The Vextai controlled over 2,000 star systems and had been expanding for 3 centuries. On the right sat Empress Mordan, though her real name was impossible for human tongues to pronounce. She was made entirely of living crystal that shifted between blue and green. Her people had mastered energy weapons that could crack planets. Light danced through her body as she communicated through color changes that few other species could understand. The center throne belonged to High Admiral Kethler, a being of living gas held together by advanced technology. His voice came from speakers built into his containment suit, and it sounded like wind through metal pipes. The Kethler Navy was feared across the galaxy for their ability to appear anywhere without warning. Daeho walked to the small podium, in the center of the chamber floor. Above him, the 3 alien leaders looked down like judges deciding his fate. Behind them, hundreds of other species waited to see humanity beg for mercy. Speaker Velthar's voice echoed through the chamber. Each word was sharp and clear, designed to show his complete control over the situation. "Human ambassador," he began, "you have come to discuss the terms of your species' surrender. This is wise. Your small fleet cannot hope to stand against our combined forces." Daeho nodded slowly. "I am here to find a peaceful solution to our conflict. Humanity does not wish for war." A wave of clicking and chirping sounds filled the chamber as aliens expressed their amusement. Empress Mordan's crystal body flashed bright yellow, which Daeho knew meant contempt in her people's color language. High Admiral Kethlar spoke next. "We have observed your pathetic attempts at a defense fleet, human. 12 ships, converted. Cargo vessels and mining platforms. Did you truly think such things could challenge us?" Daeho looked up at the High Admiral calmly. "We work with what we have. Humanity has always made do with less." "Made do?" Speaker Velthar leaned forward on his throne. "Your species has had 50 years to build a proper military. Instead, you focused on trade and exploration. You spread across only 47 star systems while we control thousands. You built merchant ships when you should have built warships. Now you face the consequences of your peaceful nature." Outside the station, Admiral Sora Park sat on the bridge of her flagship. The ship looked like an old cargo hauler that someone had welded weapons onto as an afterthought. Rust stains covered the hull, and several sections appeared to be held together with emergency patches. To any outside observer, it was exactly what the aliens thought it was, a desperate conversion of civilian equipment. But Admiral Park's calm expression told a different story. She watched the alien fleets on her screens with the patience of someone who had been planning for this moment for years. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly at stations that looked old and makeshift, but hummed with hidden power. "Ma'am," reported Captain Min-Soo Lee from the communication station, "the ambassador has begun the formal proceedings. All ships are in position." Admiral Park nodded. "Maintain defensive posture. Let them think we're as helpless as we appear." Through the viewports, she could see the alien armada. 3,000 ships from a dozen different species, all here to witness humanity's defeat. The Vextai brought their feared battle swarms, each ship looking like a giant metal wasp. The Mordan Empire had sent their crystal destroyers, weapons that looked more like jewelry than warships until they fired their planet-cracking beams. The Kethler Navy's ships were barely visible, their advanced cloaking making them appear as just slight distortions in space. Against all of this, humanity had sent 12 ships. Each one looked like it had been pulled from a scrapyard and armed by desperate civilians. The aliens had been studying these vessels for months through long-range sensors, and every scan confirmed what they wanted to believe. Humanity was defenseless. Back in the council chamber, the formal proceedings continued. Daiho listened as each alien leader explained exactly why humanity had to surrender. Their reasons were always the same. Humans were weak, humans were few, and humans were in the way of galactic progress. Your species, Speaker Velthar explained, has occupied valuable star systems that could be better used by more advanced civilizations. The Rigel system alone contains mineral wealth that your primitive mining could never fully exploit. The Ide. Centauri colonies sit on hyperspace routes that our trade fleets require. Empress Mordan's crystal form shifted to deep red as she spoke. Humanity lacks the spiritual energy to properly commune with the galaxy's living systems. Your presence disturbs the natural flow of cosmic power. You must be relocated to preserve galactic harmony. High Admiral Kethlar's artificial voice was the coldest of all. From a military perspective, your species represents a strategic liability. You cannot defend yourselves, which creates instability. Other species might exploit this weakness to stage attacks on our territories. For the sake of galactic security, human expansion must end. Daiho listened to each argument with the same calm expression. When they finished, he opened his briefcase and removed a single data pad. I have prepared humanity's response to your concerns. He began to read from prepared notes, speaking in the same quiet voice he had used throughout the meeting. Humanity acknowledges the superior military strength of the Galactic Council members. We recognize that our fleet cannot match your numbers or technology. We understand that resistance would result in the complete destruction of our colonies and the loss of countless lives. The aliens settled back in their seats, satisfied that they were about to hear exactly what they expected, complete surrender. However, Daiho continued, humanity requests a 72-hour delay before we respond to your final terms. We need time to contact our outer colonies and prepare our people for relocation. Speaker Velthar's mandibles clicked in annoyance. Why should we grant you this delay? Your answer should be simple. Surrender or be destroyed. Because, Daiho said quietly, even you must follow galactic law. The humanitarian accords state that any species facing forced relocation must be given time to contact their scattered populations. Surely the Great Galactic Council would not violate their own laws. The three leaders exchanged looks. They had indeed signed those accords, mostly to prevent other species from interfering in their expansion plans. Now those same laws were being used against them, but only to buy 3 days. What could humanity possibly accomplish in such a short time? Empress Mordan's form shifted to a dismissive shade of purple. Very well. You have 72 hours. Use them wisely to prepare your people for their new lives under our guidance. High Admiral Kethler added, but understand this. When that time expires, any resistance will be met with immediate and total destruction. We are being generous by allowing you this delay. Daiho bowed formally to each leader. Humanity appreciates your mercy. We will use this time well. As he turned to leave, the aliens began discussing how they would divide human territory among themselves. The Vextai wanted the industrial worlds. The Mordan Empire claimed the planets with the strongest energy fields, and the Kethler Navy demanded the strategic hyperspace routes. They spoke as if humanity was already gone. Daiho walked back through the station corridors. Ignoring the stares and whispered comments from the aliens he passed, many were already celebrating, planning how they would exploit the soon-to-be vacant human worlds. Some had even brought recording equipment to capture humanity's surrender for historical archives. Back on his shuttle, Daiho allowed himself a small smile as he transmitted a coded message to Admiral Park. The message was simple. The trap is set. Begin Phase 2. Admiral Park received the message on her flagship's bridge. Around her, the crew began their work with quiet efficiency. To any outside observer, they appeared to be preparing defensive positions and evacuation plans. In reality, they were initiating the most complex military deception in galactic history. All ships, Admiral Park broadcast on a frequency the aliens were monitoring, prepare for defensive positions around the civilian colonies. The alien attacks began at dawn on New Busan Colony. Captain Min-Soo Lee watched from the bridge of his mining platform as Vextai fighters screamed overhead, firing plasma bolts into the settlement below. His ship, the Soul's Pride, looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, an old asteroid mining vessel with some defensive weapons welded onto its hull. "Captain," his weapons officer reported, "they're targeting the civilian shelters first. Standard intimidation tactics." Min-Soo nodded calmly. "Return fire, but make it look desperate. Miss most of your shots, and make sure to take some damage. To our outer hull." The Soul's Pride shuddered as Vextai plasma bolts struck its armored sections. To outside observers, the ship appeared to be barely holding together under the assault. Sparks flew from control panels that had been rigged to create the right visual effects. Emergency lights flashed as the crew played their parts perfectly. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving panicked transmissions from the other mining ships. They're all requesting permission to abandon their positions." "Denied," Min-Soo replied loudly enough for the alien listening devices to pick up his words. "We hold this position until every civilian is evacuated. I don't care if this old bucket falls apart around us." But privately, through secure channels that the aliens couldn't detect, he sent different orders to his fleet. Every captain knew their real mission: appear weak while gathering intelligence on alien tactics, weapon capabilities, and fleet coordination. They were taking hits, but the hidden armor plating beneath their fake exteriors could withstand far more punishment than the aliens realized. Down on New Busan's surface, Colonel Bo Young Choi crouched behind makeshift barriers with her soldiers. The Vextai ground troops advanced in their typical swarm formation, thousands of insect-like warriors clicking across the rocky terrain. Her defenders looked exactly like what the aliens expected: desperate colonists with mining equipment converted into weapons. "Ma'am," Sergeant Dayun reported through her helmet comm, "the aliens are using standard suppression tactics. They want us to panic and run." "Then let's give them what they want," Bo Young replied. "Stage a fighting retreat toward evacuation point 3. Make it look good, but don't let anyone actually get hurt." Her soldiers began their carefully rehearsed withdrawal. To the Vextai commanders watching through their battle drones, it looked like frightened humans breaking under pressure. They saw panicked civilians firing wildly with converted mining lasers while falling back in disorder. They could not see the careful coordination behind every movement. Each panicked retreat drew the aliens into predetermined positions where hidden sensors recorded everything about their equipment, communication frequencies, and tactical doctrines. Every alien advance was being mapped and analyzed by computers hidden in fake supply caches. Bo Young's personal weapon appeared to be a modified mining cutter, the kind of desperate conversion that proved human technological inferiority. In reality, it was a precision instrument that could have vaporized any Vextai warrior instantly. But instead, she fired wide shots that barely missed her targets, playing the part of an untrained colonial militia officer. "Fall back to the next position," she ordered her troops. "Make them think they're winning." The Vextai pressed their advantage exactly as expected. Their victory reports were transmitted back to the main fleet, confirming what every alien commander wanted to believe: humans were weak, poorly equipped, and breaking under the slightest pressure. Meanwhile, high above the planet, Lieutenant Commander Hyun-Woo Nam flew his reconnaissance fighter through the chaos of the space battle. His craft looked like a converted atmospheric flyer, the kind of desperate improvisation that proved humanity's lack of proper military preparation. The aliens barely bothered to target him, viewing his vessel as too pathetic to waste ammunition on. That contempt was exactly what Hyun-Woo needed. His fighter's sensors, hidden beneath layers of fake civilian components, were recording everything. Every alien ship's energy signature, every weapon's firing pattern, every communication burst between enemy vessels. Data that would have been impossible to gather in a real battle was flowing into his computers because the aliens didn't think he was worth their attention. Command. This is Ghost Rider. He transmitted on an open channel that the aliens were monitoring. I've got visual on their main battle line. Looks like we're facing about 300 capital ships. My weapon systems are barely functioning, but I'll try to get targeting data to our gunners. The transmission was pure theater. In reality, his barely functioning weapon systems were actually advanced sensor arrays that were building a complete, tactical picture of the enemy fleet. Every alien captain who heard his transmission felt more confident about their overwhelming superiority. But on the secure quantum channels that no alien technology could intercept, Hyun-woo was transmitting detailed analysis to hidden receivers throughout human space. Fleet compositions, command ship identifications, defensive formations, and communication protocols were all being recorded for future use. This is too easy, he thought as another Vextai fighter ignored him completely. They're so convinced of our weakness that they're giving us everything we need to destroy them. Aboard the alien flagship Harmony of the Swarm, Speaker Velthar reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. The human colonies were falling exactly as predicted. Their makeshift defenses were crumbling, their converted civilian ships were taking heavy damage, and their ground forces were retreating in disorder. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the humans are following standard colonial militia patterns. They're brave but completely outmatched. We should have complete control of this system within 6 hours. Velthar's compound eyes reflected the tactical displays showing human forces in retreat across dozens of worlds. Excellent. Broadcast these victories to the other species in the Council. Let them see what happens to those who oppose our expansion. Similar scenes played out across human space as the Alien Alliance began what they called compliance strikes against outlying colonies. Each attack was designed to demonstrate alien superiority while giving humanity a chance to surrender before the real war began. On Kepler Station, Captain Dong-hyun Cha commanded what appeared to be a converted space tug with some mining lasers attached. The Morden crystal ships that attacked his position fired with just enough power to disable his vessel without destroying it completely. They wanted prisoners for interrogation and examples for intimidation. Sir, his engineer reported, they've knocked out our primary power grid. We're running on backup systems. Perfect, Dong-hyun replied quietly. Drop our power signature to emergency levels. Make them think we're about to lose life support. The Daegu's hope went dark, drifting like a powerless hulk as Mordan boarding craft approached. But inside the ship, hidden systems continued running on power sources that alien sensors couldn't detect. Every boarding party that entered the vessel was being scanned, recorded, and analyzed without their knowledge. Dr. Ye-jin Song worked frantically in her medical bay as wounded crew members were brought in from the battle. To any observer, she looked like a colonial doctor trying to save lives with limited supplies. The aliens who monitored the ship's internal communications heard her panicked requests for medical equipment and supplies. They could not see that every wounded crew member was actually an intelligence specialist gathering biological data on their attackers. Each Morden crystal sample, each Vextai chitin fragment, and each Kethler gas trace was being analyzed for weaknesses that could be exploited by weapons the aliens didn't know existed. Doctor, one of her patients reported through coded hand signals. I've confirmed their vulnerability to neural disruption frequencies. The crystal matrix is more fragile than they want us to believe. Ye-jin nodded while appearing to check his vital signs. Good work. Pass that information to the analysis team. Every weakness we identify brings us closer to victory. The pattern repeated across every human world under attack. Colonies appeared to fall, defenders seemed to break and run, and civilian ships looked like they were barely holding together under alien assault. Every defeat was carefully staged to reinforce alien confidence while gathering the intelligence that humanity would need for the real war. Admiral So-Ra Park watched the reports flowing in from across human space. To any alien analyst studying the data, it painted a clear picture of human military incompetence. Their ships were poorly designed, their tactics were primitive, and their resolve was breaking under pressure. "Ma'am," Captain Minsu transmitted from his damaged mining platform, "we've completed intelligence gathering on Vextai battle tactics. Their swarm formations have 3 critical vulnerabilities that our real weapons can exploit." "Acknowledged," Admiral Park replied through secure channels. "Continue the deception. Let them think they're winning." Similar reports came in from every engagement. Human forces appeared to be losing badly, but each defeat provided crucial information about alien capabilities. The attacks that were supposed to demonstrate alien power were actually revealing their weaknesses to an enemy they didn't know they were facing. The aliens began broadcasting their victories throughout the galaxy. Other species watched recordings of human colonies. The Centauri system had never seen so many ships in one place. 15,000 alien warships hung in space like a metal storm, their hulls reflecting the light of 3 suns. The combined fleet of the Vextai Empire, Mordan Crystals, and Kethlar Navy represented the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Against this overwhelming armada, humanity had gathered what appeared to be their final defense. 200 ships clustered around New Sol Station and the orbital colonies. Admiral Sora Park stood on her flagship's bridge, watching the alien fleet take positions like a predator circling wounded prey. "Ma'am," Captain Minsu Lee reported from his station, "alien fleet commanders are broadcasting surrender demands every 10 minutes. They want us to know we're outnumbered 75 to 1. "Let them talk," Admiral Park replied calmly. "The longer they spend congratulating themselves, the better our final positions will be." Through her viewports, she could see the human fleet spread out in what looked like a desperate defensive formation. Every ship appeared to be a converted civilian vessel pressed into military service. Mining platforms with weapons bolted on, cargo haulers with armor plates welded to their sides, and colony transports trying to pass as warships. To alien observers, it was exactly what they expected from a species facing extinction. The largest human vessel was the Incheon Guardian, commanded by Captain Tae-Young Kang. The massive ship positioned itself directly between the alien fleet and New Sol Station, as if one converted colony transport could somehow protect millions of civilians from total destruction. "Captain Kang," Admiral Park transmitted on open channels, "maintain your position. If we can hold them for just a few hours, maybe the evacuation ships can get the civilians to safety." The transmission was pure theater, designed to reinforce the aliens' belief that they were watching humanity's last stand. In reality, there were no evacuation ships and no helpless civilians. New Sol Station was actually a heavily fortified military base that had been disguised as a civilian colony for decades. Speaker Velthar's voice echoed across the system as he broadcast from his flagship. "Humans of the Centauri system, you, are surrounded and outnumbered. Your pathetic fleet cannot hope to stand against our combined might. Surrender now, and we will allow your civilians to live as workers in our expanding empires." High Admiral Kethlar's artificial voice joined the transmission. "We have analyzed your vessels extensively. Converted cargo ships and mining platforms cannot withstand the firepower of proper warships. You are only delaying the inevitable." Empress Mordan's response came as shifting colors of light that human computers translated into words. "Your species has chosen to resist the natural order of galactic evolution. This resistance ends today. Submit to our wisdom, or be destroyed by our power." Admiral Park responded with the tired voice of someone who had already accepted defeat. "We know we can't win against your numbers, but we won't abandon our people without a fight. If you want this system, you'll have to take it from us." The alien commanders felt satisfied with her response. It was exactly what a desperate, outmatched defender should say. They began their final approach with the confidence of predators, closing in for the kill. The battle began with long-range bombardment as alien ships tested human defenses. Plasma bolts and energy beams lanced across space, striking the converted civilian vessels that made up humanity's fleet. Several ships appeared to take critical damage, their hulls venting atmosphere and debris. Commander Ji-Hi-O transmitted from her heavy cruiser as it took a direct hit from Mordan crystal weapons. "This is the Daegu's hope. We've lost main." Power and our weapon systems are failing. Requesting permission to evacuate the crew." "Permission granted," Admiral Park replied sadly. "Get your people to the escape pods. There's no shame in surviving to fight another day." The Diegu's Hope appeared to die in space as escape pods launched from its hull. Alien sensors detected the life signs of fleeing crew members, confirming their belief that human resolve was breaking under pressure. They did not detect the advanced stealth systems that had been activated throughout the seemingly dead vessel. Similar scenes played out across the human fleet as ships took damage and crews appeared to abandon their positions. The aliens pressed their advantage, moving closer to finish off the wounded vessels and begin their assault on New Sol Station. "Admiral," Speaker Velthar transmitted with obvious satisfaction, "your fleet is breaking apart. Order your remaining ships to stand down and we will allow your people to live." Admiral Park's response came through damaged communication systems that crackled with static. "Negative. We hold this position until the last ship is destroyed. Humanity doesn't surrender." The alien commanders exchanged communications filled with contempt and amusement. The humans were brave, they admitted, but bravery without power was merely another form of stupidity. They began their final assault with the casual confidence of exterminators dealing with an infestation. But as the alien fleet moved into close combat range, Admiral Park allowed herself a small smile. "All ships," she transmitted on a frequency, "no alien technology could intercept. Operation Thunder Mountain is go. Drop the masks." Across the human fleet, vessels that had appeared to be dying suddenly came alive with power. The Inchon Guardian began to unfold like a metal flower, sections of its hull sliding apart to reveal weapon systems that defied galactic understanding. What had looked like a converted colony transport was actually a super dreadnought 3 times larger than any alien vessel. Captain Tae Young Kang's bridge transformed around him as hidden systems activated. "All weapons online, Captain. Shall we show them what human engineering can really do?" "Fire," he ordered simply. The weapons that emerged from the Inchon Guardian were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Energy beams that could slice through, crystal hulls like paper, plasma cannons that fired with the power of small stars, and missile systems that launched projectiles capable of tracking targets across star systems. The first Vextai battle group to engage the super dreadnought simply vanished. 15 ships that had been advancing in perfect formation were reduced to expanding clouds of superheated gas before they could even register the threat. "Impossible," Speaker Velthar transmitted to his fleet. "Their sensors showed us a cargo transport. How can they have weapons of this magnitude?" His question was answered as every human ship began shedding its disguise. Mining platforms revealed themselves to be heavy cruisers bristling with weapons. Cargo haulers dropped their false hulls to become sleek destroyers. Colony transports unfolded into battleships that made alien dreadnoughts look like toys. Commander Ji-Hi-O's abandoned cruiser suddenly blazed with power as its crew returned from their supposed escape pods. "This is the Daegu's Hope, back from the dead. Let's show these aliens what happens when you underestimate humanity." Her ship's real weapon systems came online, revealing firepower that had been hidden beneath layers of civilian camouflage for years. The Mordan crystal ships that had been closing in to finish her off found themselves facing weapons specifically designed to shatter their crystalline matrices. Admiral Park watched the alien fleet's formation begin to crumble as they faced their first taste of humanity's real military power. "All ships, engage at will. Show them what we've learned from studying their weaknesses." The human fleet that emerged from its deception was a revelation of technology and tactics. Every weapon had been designed specifically to exploit vulnerabilities discovered during months of careful observation. Every ship had been built to counter specific alien capabilities while hiding behind the facade of civilian conversion. Lieutenant Commander Hyun-Woo Nam launched from his carrier in what the aliens still thought was a converted atmospheric fighter. But as his squadron formed up around him, their craft revealed themselves to be advanced interceptors capable of outmaneuvering anything in the alien arsenal. "Ghost Squadron, this is your commander," he transmitted to his pilots. "Time to show these aliens why they should have taken us seriously from the beginning." His fighters dove into the alien formation like hawks among pigeons. The Vextai swarm tactics that had worked so well against desperate colonists proved useless against pilots who had trained for years to exploit every weakness in their attack patterns. Dr. Yejin Song worked frantically in her medical bay, but not to treat wounded crew members. Instead, she was activating biological weapons specifically designed to target the alien species she had been studying for months. Every sample of Vextai chitin, every fragment of Mordan crystal, and every trace of Kethlar gas had been analyzed to develop weapons that could strike at the cellular level. Biological countermeasures deployed, she reported to Admiral Park. The aliens are about to discover that their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. Across the alien fleet, crews began experiencing system failures as human bioweapons attacked their organic components. Vextai hive minds found their neural networks disrupted, Mordan crystals developed fractures that spread through their hulls like cancer, and Kethlar gas beings discovered that their containment systems were failing as their molecular structure destabilized. "What is happening to our fleet?" High Admiral Kethlar demanded, as his ships began to suffer cascading failures. The explosions in the Centauri system lit up the darkness of space like new stars being born. But the real surprise was yet to come. As alien ships burned and their crews tried to understand how their certain victory had become total disaster, space itself began to tear open. Hyperspace windows opened throughout the system, each one large enough for entire fleets to pass through. Admiral Sora Park smiled as she watched 50,000 human warships emerge from the void, their hulls gleaming with the deadly beauty of purpose-built instruments of war. Fleet Admiral Chang Ho Seo's voice echoed across all frequencies as his massive dreadnought led the new arrivals into battle formation. "This is the human defense fleet, and we are no longer hiding. Every species in this galaxy will know that humanity's time of pretending to be weak is over." The aliens who had been confident of their overwhelming numbers suddenly found themselves outnumbered by more than 3-1. But numbers were only part of the shock. These weren't converted civilian ships or desperate colonial militias. These were warships that had been built in secret over decades, incorporating technology from conquered alien species that the galaxy didn't even know were missing. Speaker Velthar's compound eyes reflected the tactical displays showing ship after ship emerging from hyperspace. Where did they get such a fleet? Our intelligence reports showed only a few hundred human vessels in their entire space. His tactical officer's mandibles clicked with fear as more data flowed across his screens. "Sir, these ships are using technology we don't recognize. Some of their weapons appear to be based on Zephyrian energy matrices. But the Zephyrians went missing 50 years ago. We assumed they had isolated themselves in deep space." "The Zephyrians didn't isolate themselves." Fleet Admiral Seo's voice cut across their communications like a blade. "They were the first species to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. Their technology now serves a better purpose." High Admiral Kethlar's gas form churned with panic inside his containment suit as he realized the implications. How many species have they conquered without our knowledge? How long have they been preparing for this war? The answer came from Captain Da-Un Yu as her stealth carrier Guangzhou's Fury decloaked near the alien command ships. "Longer than you can imagine, and we've learned from everyone who tried to stop us." Her ship had been masquerading as wreckage for hours, its crew recording every alien communication and tactical decision. Now her fighter squadrons, led by Major Seok-Jin Park, launched from hidden bays to begin surgical strikes on alien command. "Vessels. Ghost Wing. This is Wing Commander Park," he transmitted to his pilots. "Target priority is alien command and control systems. Let's cut the head off the snake and watch the body die." His fighters moved through the alien formation like death itself, their weapons designed specifically to exploit the weaknesses that humanity had spent months learning to identify. Vextai hive ships found their neural networks severed. Mordan crystal command vessels shattered as precisely targeted frequencies disrupted their matrices, and Kethlar command gas dispersed into space as their containment systems failed. But the revelation was spreading far beyond the Centauri system. Throughout human space, colonies that had appeared to fall to alien attack were suddenly revealing their true nature as heavily fortified military bases. General Wansik-bai, activated the planetary defense networks on New Busan as Vextai occupation. Forces discovered that the world they thought they had conquered was actually a massive fortress. The mining tunnels were actually weapon emplacements, the civilian shelters were command bunkers, and the evacuated population were actually military personnel who had been waiting for this moment. "Attention Vextai forces," he broadcast from his hidden command center. "You are now prisoners on a human military world. Surrender immediately, or discover why we allowed you to land here in the first place." The Vextai ground commanders who had been congratulating themselves on their easy victory suddenly found themselves facing weapons that emerged from every hill, cave, and building. The planet that had seemed helpless revealed defensive capabilities that could destroy entire fleets attempting to land or escape. Similar revelations occurred across dozens of worlds as humanity's deception was finally revealed. Admiral Yun-ha Lim led breakout fleets from systems that the aliens thought they had conquered, her ships emerging from hidden bases that had been disguised as destroyed colonies. "This is Admiral Lim of the Liberation Fleet," she announced as her forces surrounded shocked alien garrison fleets. "You thought you had conquered our worlds. Instead, you've walked into carefully prepared traps. Every one of your ships is now targeted by weapons you didn't know existed." The scope of humanity's deception became clear as intelligence reports flowed in from across the galaxy. Human agents who had been positioned in alien territories for years began activating, revealing that humanity's reach extended far deeper into alien space than anyone had imagined. On the Vextai homeworld, Sleeper, agents led by Commander Subin Kim began sabotaging critical infrastructure. Power grids failed, communication networks went dark, and defense platforms mysteriously malfunctioned just as human assault fleets appeared in the system. Homeworld Command, "This is Fleet Defense." Panicked transmissions filled Vextai communication channels. "We have human warships in our home system. How is this possible? Our space was supposed to be secure." The answer came from Supreme Admiral Jin-A Hong as her super dreadnought Soul Eternal dropped out of hyperspace above the Vextai capital world. "Your space was never secure. We've been here for years, learning your weaknesses and preparing for this day." Her ship was a marvel of human engineering and captured alien technology. Its hull incorporated Morden crystal matrices for energy distribution, Kethalar phase technology for defense, and weapons systems based on a dozen different alien designs that had been improved beyond their original specifications. "How?" Speaker. Felthar transmitted from his flagship as he watched human forces systematically dismantling his empire's defenses. "How did you hide such capabilities for so long?" Admiral Park's response was broadcast across all frequencies for every species in the galaxy to hear. "We learned from the best teachers possible, our enemies. Every species that attacked us, every empire that tried to conquer us, taught us something new about warfare. We studied you, we adapted your technology, and we prepared for the day when we would no longer need to hide our true capabilities." The revelation sent shockwaves throughout galactic civilization as other species realized the implications. The humans they had dismissed as peaceful traders and harmless explorers had actually been the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, systematically studying and defeating their enemies while maintaining a facade of weakness. Dr. Yejin Song worked frantically in her laboratory aboard Admiral Park's flagship, coordinating biological warfare attacks against alien fleets throughout the galaxy. Pathogen release successful on Morden crystal ships. Their organic matrices are breaking down at the molecular level. They'll be dead in space within hours. Her weapons were marvels of biological engineering, each one designed to target specific alien physiology while leaving human crews completely unaffected. Years of careful study had revealed biological weaknesses that could be exploited with surgical precision. Empress Morden's crystal form flickered with dying light as her flagship's organic components failed around her. "Impossible. Our crystals are immune to biological warfare. How can they have created weapons that affect our mineral structure?" "Because your crystals aren't purely mineral." Dr. Song's voice came through their communication systems. "They're a hybrid of organic and inorganic components, and we've learned exactly which organic elements to target. Every species has weaknesses, even ones they don't know exist." The Kethler Navy, once feared throughout the galaxy for their ability to appear anywhere without warning, found their gas-based physiology turning against them as human weapons disrupted their molecular cohesion. High Admiral Kethler watched in horror as his crews began dispersing into space, their containment suits failing as human bioweapons attacked the very bonds that held their bodies together. "This is impossible," he transmitted as his own form began to destabilize. "We are beings of pure energy. Physical weapons cannot harm us." "You're not pure energy," Captain Dong Hyun-cha replied as his task force surrounded the Kethler flagship. "Your complex gas formations held together by electromagnetic forces, and we've learned exactly how to disrupt those forces. Every species that tried to conquer us taught us something new about how to destroy them. Throughout the galaxy, alien empires that had existed for millennia were crumbling as humanity's true capabilities were revealed. The species that had been dismissed as primitive and weak were systematically dismantling civilizations that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Captain Tae-Young Kang's super dreadnought had grown even larger as hidden sections continued to unfold from its core. Admiral Park, all primary objectives are secure. Enemy command structures throughout the sector are neutralized. Shall we proceed to Phase 3? "Affirmative," Admiral Park replied. "Begin broadcast of surrender terms to all surviving alien forces. Let them know that their age of dominance is over." The message that went out across 6 months after the Battle of Centauri, the galaxy looked very different. Supreme Admiral Jin Hong stood on the observation deck of her flagship Sol Eternal, watching as former alien throne worlds lined up to formally submit to human authority. The great powers that had once ruled thousands of star systems now sent representatives to beg for mercy from the species they had planned to exterminate. The surrender ceremonies were held on Station Prima, the same location where Ambassador Dae-ho Kim had once pretended to negotiate humanity's defeat. Now the roles were completely reversed. Alien leaders who had once sat on towering thrones now stood in simple holding areas, waiting for human officials to decide their fate. "Ma'am," Captain Min-Soo Lee reported from the communication station, "the Vextai Collective has formally dissolved their empire and placed all their worlds under human administration. Speaker Velthar is requesting an audience to discuss the terms of his species' survival." Supreme Admiral Hong nodded without turning from the viewport. "Inform him that former Speaker Velthar will be granted 5 minutes to present his case. He should use that time wisely." Through the transparent aluminum, she could see the remnants of what had once been the galaxy's most feared fleets. Alien warships sat powerless in human-controlled space, their crews imprisoned and their weapons removed. Many of the vessels had been converted into cargo haulers, their proud military configurations stripped away to serve humanity's expanding empire. The irony was not lost on her. The aliens had mocked humanity's converted civilian ships, never realizing that they would soon be flying converted military vessels in service to their new human masters. Captain Da Yun-Yu's stealth carrier Guangzhou's Fury moved through the gathering of alien delegates like a shark among minnows. Her crew monitored every alien vessel, every communication and every biological signature for signs of deception or resistance. The galaxy had learned that humanity's patience had limits, and those limits had already been tested. "Admiral," she reported through secure channels, "I'm detecting elevated stress indicators from several alien delegations. The Mordan crystals are showing fracture patterns consistent with extreme fear, and the remaining Kethalar beings are having difficulty maintaining molecular cohesion." "Good," Supreme Admiral Hong replied. "Fear is the beginning of wisdom. They should be afraid. Their predecessors learned too late what happens when you threaten humanity." The Mordan Empire had been the first to completely collapse after the revelation of human power. Empress Mordan herself had shattered into component crystals when she realized that her entire civilization had been infiltrated by human agents for decades. Captain Dong Hyun-cha now administered what remained of their worlds, using their own crystal technology to enforce human law with precision that bordered on the mathematical. "The crystal worlds are fully integrated into our administrative network," he reported from the former Mordan capital. Their energy production capabilities have increased by 300% under human management. It seems they were never using their own technology to its full potential. The Kethler Navy had lasted longer, but their gas-based physiology made them vulnerable to biological weapons that could destabilize their molecular structure at will. High Admiral Kethler had voluntarily dispersed himself rather than watch his species be systematically dissolved by human bioweapons. The surviving Kethlar now existed in containment suits provided by human technology, their very lives dependent on humanity's continued mercy. Admiral Yun Halim commanded the occupation forces in former Kethlar space, where she had discovered something that sent shockwaves through human command. Supreme Admiral, we found evidence of at least 30 species that were completely exterminated by the Kethlar over the past 2 centuries. They weren't just conquerors, they were genocidal. We may have saved more lives than we realized by defeating them. The revelation helped justify what many human leaders already knew. The galaxy was better off under human control. The great alien empires had not been benevolent rulers but predators who had eliminated any species that could potentially challenge their dominance. Humanity had simply been too dangerous to ignore, which had led to their own downfall. Dr. Ye Jin Song worked in her expanded laboratory complex, studying the biological remains of species that had been extinct for centuries. We're discovering that the galaxy was once home to thousands of intelligent species. Most were eliminated by the 3 major powers before they could develop space travel. We've been fighting to preserve diversity they spent millennia destroying. Her research had revealed the true scope of alien crimes against galactic civilization. The Vextai had systematically hunted down hive-minded species that could compete with their swarm intelligence. The Morden had destroyed any crystalline life forms that might challenge their energy monopoly. The Kethlar had eliminated gaseous species to maintain their unique advantages in space warfare. Every world we've liberated tells the same story, she continued. The major powers eliminated potential competitors before they could become threats. We're not conquerors, we're liberators freeing the galaxy from species that had turned it into their private hunting preserve. General Wan Sik Bay oversaw the integration of alien military technology into human defense networks. The irony was perfect. Weapons designed to conquer humanity were now being used to enforce human rule throughout the galaxy. Vextai swarm tactics had been adapted to defend human colonies. Mordan energy weapons protected human trade routes, and Kethalar stealth technology kept human fleets hidden until they were needed. The aliens built the perfect tools for galactic domination, he reported to Supreme Admiral Hong. They just weren't smart enough to use them properly. Under human leadership, their own technology is creating the most stable galactic government in history. Lieutenant Commander Hyun Woo Nam now commanded entire wings of fighters based on captured alien designs, but improved with human engineering and tactics. His pilots patrolled former alien space with the confidence of police officers, maintaining order in a well-run city. Sir, one of his pilots reported during a routine patrol, we're detecting a small fleet of unidentified ships attempting to cross into the former Vextai territory. They appear to be refugees from the Outer Rim. Escort them to the nearest Human Administrative Center, Hyunwoo ordered. Make sure they understand that this space is now under human protection. No more running from extinct empires. The refugees turned out to be survivors of the Tenthari species, one of dozens of civilizations that had been hiding in deep space to avoid alien attention. With the great powers destroyed, they could finally emerge from centuries of concealment. We thought we would have to hide forever, their leader explained through translation devices. The old empires would have exterminated us for having technology they couldn't control. Will humanity be different? Ambassador Dae Ho Kim, now serving as Director of Alien Integration, smiled as he welcomed them to the new galactic order. Humanity has no interest in destroying species that pose no threat to us. You're free to settle in any system that isn't already claimed. All we ask is that you follow human law and contribute to galactic stability. It was the same message being delivered throughout human space as dozens of hidden civilizations emerged from their hiding places. The galaxy was revealing itself to be far more diverse than the major powers had ever allowed it to appear. Colonel Bo Young Choi commanded the integration forces that helped these emerging species establish themselves in the new galactic order. "It's remarkable," she reported. "Every week we discover new civilizations that were forced into hiding by the old empires. The galaxy is becoming more populated and diverse than it's been in centuries. The human approach to governance was proving far more effective than alien methods had ever been. Instead of ruling through fear and elimination, humanity offered protection and trade opportunities to species that accepted human authority. The result was an explosion of innovation and prosperity that the galaxy hadn't seen in millennia. Economic output in former alien territories has increased by an average of 400%, reported the new director of Galactic Commerce, formerly Admiral Sora Park. Turns out that when species aren't afraid of being exterminated for success, they become remarkably productive. Captain Tae Young Kang's super dreadnought had become the mobile capital of human space, carrying government, officials, and military commanders between systems with the authority to make decisions that affected billions of lives. The ship that had once masqueraded as a converted colony transport now openly displayed the overwhelming firepower that enforced human rule throughout the galaxy. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 3 more species in the Outer Rim. They're offering complete submission in exchange for protection from what they call the remaining hunters." It seemed that even with the major empires destroyed, some alien species continued their genocidal practices in remote parts of the galaxy. Humanity was gradually extending its protection to cover these threatened civilizations as well. Supreme Admiral Hong made the decision that would define humanity's legacy among the stars. "Send task forces to investigate these remaining hunters. If we find species that pose a threat to